Hey, what's up? Dead by Daylight players. It all started back in 2016 and now we're here in 2025. After 9 years of playing and mastering DBD, I'm here to share all my pro tips and the ultimate settings that help me become the best at this game. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned player, these settings will give you the edge you need to dominate. Let's jump into it. General settings, nothing too exciting here for competitive players. If you're new, tweak them to your liking, but let's get to the settings that actually make a difference. So here's the deal with heartbeat. I once saw a YouTuber recommend turning it off, especially because of killers like Sadako and Victor. But let me tell you why I believe you should definitely keep it on. Heartbeat is crucial in Dead by Daylight. Even if the killer is far away, you'll see the heartbeat icon appear as soon as they start getting closer. It's much faster than relying on the music. The second you see that icon, your reflexes kick in and you know exactly what to do. Without it, you're only relying on the music, which doesn't give you that quick reaction time. In Dead by Daylight, eyes are faster than ears, and the heartbeat lets you react instantly. When heartbeat is on, as the killer gets closer, the icon gets bigger and the beats get faster. That's your cue to react. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. Now let's talk about colorblind mode. This is something I believe everyone should use, even if you're not colorblind. I highly recommend setting it to tritanopia at 100% and adjusting it properly. Why? Because tritanopia enhances the visibility of red colors, which helps you spot things like the killer's red light much more easily. When you're looping the killer, especially around Shack, the red light is a key indicator of where the killer is. This simple adjustment can make a huge difference and help you react faster. With these settings, you won't need tools like Reshade anymore. Reshade might sound good, but it can lower your FPS, especially on lower-end PCs, and it's unnecessary. Also, never use screen filters. Your eye health is important, and the in-game settings in Dead by Daylight are more than enough to give you the visibility you need. By the way, for this video, I used editing software to brighten up the footage, but when I'm actually playing, I never use screen filters. I prefer playing in the dark because it helps me focus better. Just optimize your in-game settings and you're good to go. Alright, let's talk about graphics settings. First things first, never play on Ultra. Sure, it might make the game look higher quality, but it also makes black colors much more pronounced, which means your game will look darker overall. And a darker game, that's a huge disadvantage. On the other hand, playing on low makes the game brighter and way smoother. Almost every tournament player I know plays on low for this exact reason. It might sound weird, but the game actually looks cleaner, more fluid, and just better on low settings. Now, if you're a YouTube content creator, playing on Ultra could make sense for better looking videos. But if you're playing competitively, low is 100% the way to go. If you're playing Dead by Daylight, a 2560x1442K monitor is a game changer. In shooters like Valorant or CSGO, high refresh rate 1080p 360Hz monitors are amazing. But in DBD, your FPS is capped at 120. That means you don't really need a 1080p high-res monitor. In fact, even a 4K 120Hz monitor can work great for DBD. When I switched from 1080p to 2K, I immediately noticed how much clearer and easier to track everything was. It actually helped me play better. Alright, let's talk about VSync. It basically syncs your FPS with your monitor's refresh rate to prevent screen tearing. Sounds good, right? Well, not really. In DBD, VSync adds input lag, which is the last thing you want in a competitive game. Since DBD is already capped at 120 FPS, you don't need it. Just turn it off. If you're getting screen tearing, a G-Sync or FreeSync monitor will fix that without the extra lag. FSR, this is AMD's upscaling tech, and in DBD it basically gives you more FPS by rendering the game at a lower resolution and then sharpening it back up. If you're struggling with performance, turning on FSR can help a lot, especially on lower end GPUs. Plus, it reduces the workload on your graphics card, meaning it won't overheat as much and could even last longer. Oh, and since it uses less power, your electricity bill might even be lower. If you've got a strong PC, you probably don't need it, but if you want extra FPS and a longer lasting GPU, FSR is definitely worth trying. So, I personally find anti-aliasing and XeSS modes unnecessary. Anti-aliasing does improve visual quality, but it doesn't make a huge difference. It puts more strain on your GPU and can lower your FPS. XeSS, Intel's upscaling tech, isn't really going to help you increase performance in a game like DBD. If you're looking for more FPS, it's better to turn these off. The visual difference is minimal and they can seriously impact gameplay, so don't unnecessarily stress your system. When it comes to UI scale and in-game HUD scale, the most logical setting is %70. This adjustment makes the HUD elements smaller, giving you a wider field of view and allowing you to see more of the game world. If you set these to 100%, the screen becomes much more cluttered and everything feels more cramped. This reduces the available space and makes it harder to focus on the important things. With %70, you get a wider view and a more comfortable gaming experience. If you're new to the game, definitely use mini item pop-up. It helps you quickly see what you're doing in the game and makes your experience a lot easier. But if you're a professional, you won't really need it, because you'll already know what you're doing and what you need to do without those notifications. In Dead by Daylight, keep the volume at around 20%. Playing with high volume can make Survivor players more excited, and when looping, it can make you nervous and anxious. If you're a professional or want to stay calm, it's better to play with lower volume. Personally, whenever I play with the volume turned up, I get too hyped up and end up losing focus. The music in Dead by Daylight is amazing, and it really builds tension, but lowering the volume helps you stay in control and play more strategically. I play with 30% sensitivity and 4000 DPI in Dead by Daylight. Yes, it's all up to personal preference, but with 30% sensitivity, it feels like there's some kind of magic. It feels like performing a 360 turn becomes way easier, even though it might sound a bit crazy. But that's how it feels to me. It feels much easier for me to hit a 360 with that sensitivity. Maybe it sounds a bit weird, but at 30% sensitivity, pulling off a 360 just feels smoother and more natural. A lot of people think I'm using an auto dead hard hack because I use dead hard so effectively. The reason for that is simply because I've bound the dead hard advantage to the M4 key. It's all about the manual binding, not a hack. If you're someone who uses your right hand in real life, definitely bind the dead hard advantage to the M4 button on your mouse. Your left hand just isn't as fast. You might think I'm crazy for being so focused on the game, but trust me, it really works this way. Some people bind the wiggle movement to the spacebar, but honestly the spacebar is one of the slowest keys. If you want to perform it faster, bind it to your mouse's right-click button instead. In Dead by Daylight, when you're playing as a killer, if you see a survivor doing a 360, your chances of missing them are significantly lower with larger survivors. Bigger survivors like Jeff or Jane Romero are much easier to hit because they take up more space, and it's harder for them to dodge your attacks. On the other hand, smaller survivors like Feng Min, Claudette, Nia, Lori and Michaela have a much smaller hitbox and can more easily dodge your swings, especially when performing a 360. If you're new to the game, I'd recommend avoiding playing the larger survivors if you want to make it harder for killers to hit you during 360s. When it comes to 360s in Dead by Daylight, skins play an important role as well. If you're trying to make it harder for killers to hit you while performing 360s, avoid using large skins or outfits. Big costumes will make your character appear larger, taking up more space on the map. This increases your chances of being hit while you're trying to loop around or dodge the killer's attacks. A smaller, more streamlined outfit helps you stay agile and reduces the likelihood of getting hit during a 360, giving you a better chance of surviving. The 360 move is done by simply pressing the D key and quickly turning your mouse to the right. However, this move requires a sensitivity of at least 1600 DPI or higher. Personally, I think this move is even better than the regular 360. It's known as the grasshopper's wings. It's faster and more effective, allowing you to evade the killer with ease. To perform this move, you'll need to constantly drag your mouse across the mousepad. Just move the mouse to the right while pressing the D key. For this, you'll definitely need a large mousepad to give you enough space for the motion. If you're looking for a quicker and more reliable way to dodge, this technique will definitely give you the upper hand. At 4000 DPI, doing a 360 is super easy. You just need to press W first, then A, followed by S and finally D, all in a quick sequence. Make sure to rotate your mouse to the right when doing this. Do not do it the opposite way, like WDSA. If you do, you'll end up getting too close to the killer's weapon side and you won't be able to make the 360 properly. Most killers in Dead by Daylight carry their weapon with their right hand, so you want to turn toward the side where the weapon is not. Always rotate your mouse away from the weapon side to maximize your chances of escaping the hit. Now I'm lowering my DPI setting, you'll be very surprised. Can you even do a 360 at 800 DPI? I can't turn properly just by pressing D. The game doesn't allow it at that DPI. If you're playing at 800 DPI, I honestly recommend switching to console for Dead by Daylight. Trust me on this one. I'm obsessed with this game and you need to set your DPI to at least 1600 or higher. You don't have to go all the way to 4000 DPI, but 1600 DPI or more is necessary. I'm used to high DPI from games like Fortnite, where I've played everything at a high DPI, but you'll definitely need at least 1600 DPI to get good at 360S and even Moonwalk. At 800 DPI, doing those moves is super difficult.
At 800 DPI, it will be very slow to check behind you when running away from the killer, which means you won't be able to loop safely. You need to constantly check behind you to stay safe. With high DPI, you can easily spot the killer and react quickly. High DPI makes it much easier to keep track of everything and think fast. High DPI is very important in Dead by Daylight.
Do you see the difference with high DPI? You'll be able to spot the killer behind you much faster. You'll think faster and react quicker. You'll easily see how close the killer is getting. With high DPI, you can instantly track the killer behind you. It's not just about speed, it's about precision. You'll react much quicker and know exactly how close the killer is, giving you an advantage during loops. Moonwalking is all about syncing your key presses with your mouse movement. When you press A, you need to move your mouse to the left. When you press D, move your mouse to the right. At the same time, hold S and Shift to keep moving backward. If you're playing on low DPI, this can feel sluggish and unresponsive. But at 1600 DPI or higher, the movement feels much smoother, and you'll be able to pull off clean moonwalks effortlessly. That's why high DPI is a must for advanced movement techniques. Right now I'm playing on high DPI and just look at how smooth my moonwalk is. This is exactly why higher DPI makes advanced movements so much better. By the way, keyboard switches are also super important. I'll talk about that next. Moonwalking at 800 DPI, just look at how bad it is. The mouse speed simply can't keep up with your keyboard inputs, making it so much harder. My wrist actually felt heavy while doing this. And no, this isn't about habit. You can 100% get used to higher DPI, and once you do, movement becomes so much smoother. Let me tell you about my keyboard. This is not a sponsored product. I use the Apex Pro TKL with OmniPoint switches. The best part? You can adjust the actuation speed from 0.1 ms to 4 ms. I keep it at 0.1 ms, and it feels as fast as a heartbeat. If the killer takes a step left, I instantly react and step right. This makes a huge difference in loops. Now you might think, can you really notice the difference between 0.1 ms and 4 ms? The human eye can't even detect that. But trust me, when you play at high speed, you feel the difference. At 0.1 ms, it's like the keyboard is reading your mind. It responds the instant you touch it. But here's the downside. Moonwalking becomes much harder at 0.1 ms. The ideal setting for smooth moonwalks is actually around 1 ms. Never use a glass mousepad. It ruined the skates on my mouse, and it's not ideal for Dead by Daylight. In hot weather, my wrist sweats, and the glass surface creates an uncomfortable slipperiness. In the winter, my wrist gets cold and the mousepad sticks to it, making it impossible to move the mouse freely. Plus, it's really noisy. If you absolutely have to use a glass mousepad, you'll need to use a sleeve with it. But here's the thing, when you use a sleeve, it's not your wrist that sticks to the glass, it's your exposed palm. And then you're back in the same situation. I've seen wrist sleeves for the palm of your hand, and when you release the mouse, the tight sleeve pushes the mouse forward, creating unwanted resistance. Anyone who's used a glass mousepad knows exactly what I mean. These mousepads are really great. This video isn't sponsored, but the Artisan brand is legendary. For example, the Artisan Zero is perfect if you're using high DPI. It provides amazing control, and it almost feels like the mousepad knows exactly where you're stopping or moving. The Artisan Hien is also fantastic, especially the Shidenkai model. It's super smooth and your mouse almost feels like it's gliding effortlessly. I would recommend this one for people using low DPI. Then there's the Hayate Otsu model, which is also a great choice and many users find it comfortable to use. Lately, I've been using the Razer Strider. It's a speed-oriented mousepad, so it doesn't offer the same control as something like the Artisan Zero. However, using the Razer Strider is a lot of fun. It feels like 80% speed and 20% control. For now, this is what I'm using. Let me quickly talk about keyboard switches. First off, never get green switches. They're extremely loud, and honestly, they're not good for DBD or for doing moonwalks. My fingers got tired really quickly with green switches because they have a heavier actuation force, which requires more effort to press each key. After a while, it starts to strain your fingers, especially in a game like DBD where you're constantly moving and pressing buttons. I returned that keyboard and switched back to OmniPoint switches. OmniPoint switches are just as good as Cherry MX red switches. Both are great for gaming, and for DBD, red switches are also really good. So, while Cherry MX and OmniPoint are on equal footing, green switches, definitely avoid them. I've been using the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, and honestly, this mouse is awesome. When it comes to DBD, forget about heavy mice like the Naga. I don't really think heavy mice are suitable for DBD. The mouse needs to be light, and the Lamzu Atlantis Mini is perfect for that. Ninjutsu Sora and WL Mouse Beast X. Mini are also great options. These are excellent mice, but of course hand size matters. Whether you use a claw grip or a fingertip grip, you should choose the mouse accordingly. Personally, I prefer to use the claw grip. I've been using the Beyerdynamic DT 770 Pro 250 ohm headphones, and I'm super happy with them. But don't just rush to buy them. If you get them without a proper sound card, your PC probably won't be able to power them properly. 250 ohm headphones need more power to perform at their best, so you definitely need a good sound card or an amp to really bring them to life. If you don't want the hassle of additional equipment, I'd recommend going for 80 ohm or 32 OHM versions because they're way easier to drive with just your PC. But yeah, if you're going with the 250 OHM, make sure to get a sound card first, then you can enjoy them to their full potential. Also, gaming headphones aren't ideal for DBD. DBD isn't about footstep sounds, it's all about the music and environmental sounds. Sure, some killers like Nemesis make footstep noises, and they're pretty loud and noticeable, but overall studio headphones are much better and more comfortable for DBD. Plus, when you're not playing DBD, these headphones give you an amazing music experience. I don't recommend using Reshade for a few reasons. First off, it messes with the game's core mechanics, and I honestly think it might get banned in the future. Plus, if you don't have a really powerful PC, it can cause significant FPS drops. I personally never use screen filters because I don't like messing with the game's natural feel. If I ever use filters, it's just in OBS for video recording, not while actually playing. Reshade can be a real disadvantage for killers. But since it's legal for now, I don't blame players who use it. Tournament players are using it, and they have every right to, since if there's an advantage, they might as well take it. Tournament players are the future of DBD, and they're doing a lot to make the game more popular. I really respect what they're doing. Now let's talk about AMD settings. I've never seen any YouTube videos that focus on DBD settings specifically for players using AMD, so I hope this helps you out. I wouldn't really recommend Radeon Super Resolution for DBD as it boosts FPS by lowering the image quality. Since DBD is capped at 120 FPS, it doesn't make a significant difference in performance and might just reduce visual quality without improving the gameplay experience. As for AMD Fluid Motion frames, I wouldn't suggest using it either. It tries to add extra frames for smoother motion, but since DBD is capped at 120 FPS, this feature isn't effective here either. Now, Radeon Anti-Lag is definitely something I recommend. It reduces input lag, which is really important in DBD, where precise timing can make all the difference. It can make your gameplay feel more responsive and smoother. When it comes to Radeon Chill, I'd suggest keeping it disabled. While it's meant to save power by limiting FPS, it can hinder responsiveness in DBD, and you need every bit of responsiveness in this game. Finally, Radeon Image Sharpening is a feature I would definitely use. It improves the clarity of the visuals, making DBD look more HD, especially on higher resolution displays. Anisotropic filtering is one of my settings and I have it enabled. This makes the game's visuals sharper, especially enhancing the clarity of distant surfaces. I set the anisotropic filtering level to 16x because it provides sharper and crisper images. 16x is the highest quality level in the game world. If your computer isn't that powerful, you can set it to 4x instead. This depends on your system's power, so it's important to find the best result through trial and error. I set texture filtering quality to high because high quality textures look more beautiful and clear. However, I choose not to use surface format because this option can sometimes lead to unnecessary performance losses. I leave tessellation mode to AMD optimized because on AMD cards, this usually provides the best performance. Finally, I keep OpenGL disabled. This option is mostly unnecessary for DBD and can negatively affect performance, so it's best to leave it off. Another important setting is anti-aliasing method. I prefer the super sampling option. This makes the images smoother, especially softening the edges. Super sampling increases the resolution to make the images clearer and sharper, thus minimizing aliasing, pixelated edges. However, this setting can put extra load on your computer because it processes at a higher resolution. If your PC isn't powerful, enabling this setting may lower your performance. So it's best to use super sampling depending on your system's capacity. If you don't have a very powerful system, you might want to consider using lower anti-aliasing options. I wouldn't recommend using color settings because they don't only affect DBD, they also impact your desktop. You can't change this for just the game, and it can lead to unwanted changes in how everything else looks on your screen. Instead, simply set AMD FreeSync to AMD optimized and move on. Of course, this only works if your monitor supports FreeSync technology. This setting will help improve performance and smooth out your gameplay experience without affecting your entire system's visuals.